All right. Welcome everyone to the Fireside Chat by IBC Media and Unique Network. Thank you for joining us. We have Praveen with us here today. Praveen is the COO and CPO of IBC Media and a veteran in the industry, having spent over 25 years in Web 2 and Web 3 spaces. He has worked across the geographies in North America, Europe, the Middle East, and in India in key leadership positions in the technology and fintech space. Welcome, Praveen.
Thank you, Dhruv. Thank you so much for your kind introduction. I wanted to take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Filip. Filip is a veteran in the industry. He has masters in electrical electronics communication engineering. And subsequent to that, Filip has been working with innovations in tools which relate to customers' success. He also has been worked in the space in the BI tools. Filip is somebody who really likes to work in the cutting edge technologies. He's passionate about bringing changes and everything that really impacts this business from the technology side. So we are very privileged to have you, Filip, today in the Fireside from IBC Media. Welcome to the meeting. I'll take a few minutes before we get onto the root and the meat of the discussion. Unique Network is a very specialized setup in which they are trying to look at NFTs in a very different way, trying to bring innovations in the way NFTs are created, NFTs are used, and the NFTs are leveraged for various business purposes. So we'll talk more about Unique from Filip later on. But then we definitely think that Unique Network is doing a lot of innovative things in NFT space, which in my opinion is very crucial for the whole industry to thrive and make the technology useful to the community. That's very important. IBC Media as a company, our sole motto is to take this technology to a grassroots level by leveraging, by taking several paths. And we have seen this industry for several years. And what we feel that this technology is evolving at a pace which is very difficult to sustain with respect to the talent, with respect to the community adoption. So IBC Media is doing several things which helps the protocols, which helps the community get an understanding of this technology. And in the whole journey, we are partnered by several key blockchain companies. We are partnered by government stakeholders within Indian ecosystem, and several thousands of colleges, where we are having a huge amount of talent pool who are not exposed to this technology. So IBC Media is doing several things in this space, which really is a win-win situation for all the stakeholders. Now, before I get into the question, so I'll just give a few thoughts from my side, which really could be the starting point of the discussion. After the Bitcoin was created in 2008 and 9, this technology really, the blockchain technology has moved up in maturity, in the use cases, and the applicability to the real life. And we have seen progressive growth in this technology space, starting from Ethereum, and then, of course, multitude of chains having come in, and all of them trying to solve the problem, looking at the problem from different lenses, and ultimately working together the same goal, where we see blockchain impacting the real lives. And in the whole equation, something which really has sprung up is NFT. And before NFT, it is a token. Now, the tokens are basically the value representation in the digital world, which could be any digital asset, or it could be any physical asset, where you have the verifiability in terms of the ownership. You have the ability to transfer this ownership to others. And now this landscape, this balance really has opened up multitude of business use cases. Now, if you talk about these tokens, then we have different types of token. We have fungible tokens, such as any cryptocurrency that you can think of, or it is something which really for example, any dollar, all dollar notes, all dollar currencies are same. I mean, you can exchange one by other. But the same thing is not true when it comes to non-fungible tokens, where these tokens are non-fungible. Every asset which is represented by an NFT has its own value, and this cannot be replaced by any other NFT which exists, which could look similar, but they are not valued the same way. And then, of course, we have got semi-fungible tokens, which really has taken the non-fungible to a different level altogether. And I also understand that Unique Network has several other, specific use cases in NFT, which I'll let Philip talk about them. But it is important that once we have these NFTs impacting our life in such a way, then we should definitely take a deeper look, and that's what we're trying to do today. Now, Philip, I hope you have you have similar thoughts on this. Let me take my first question to you. Now, when we talk about token, for sure, it really has taken some time for the community to understand what these tokens are. And when you look at these tokens, one thing that really comes to my mind very, very clearly is that the mass adoption of the blockchain technology is dependent on the real world tokenization of assets. When this happens, all the possible real life use cases come into the blockchain world. I would like to ask you this question. How do you think this tokenization of the real world asset is going to change our life? Would you please throw your light?
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, and I'm very happy to be here. And to touch upon this question, which is a very, very interesting question, I want to kind of take your mind on a ride, if you let me. I have a very kind of interesting way of looking at it, and consider from the essential aspect of what a blockchain is. It's actually a permanent record of metadata, which is immutable. It's every record that you make in the time passing on is protected by a cryptographic key, which makes it extremely difficult to unravel history and change it at some point. So this is a crucial aspect. You're actually you're encapsulating some metadata in time, and this is kind of the essence of why blockchain is such an interesting concept. It kind of secures a way for something that was recorded to be guaranteed to be not changed in the future. So this is a good starting basis point for what I want to say. But there is essentially an atomic analogy in this story. When you look at the blockchain, the metadata are like the gluons. The gluons are these particles that allow other elements to glue together into some kind of matter. And they connect the off-chain data in this analogy to the on-chain data. They glue real world information or some aspects of the information to some on-chain event. And this makes it very, very interesting in this idea. So what would then contracts be? Contracts would be like the physical rules. So we're inundated with a lot of information about what physics is discovering these days, and we all kind of learn how quantum physics is interesting and weird, but we're always reminded that it's all about rules. There are rules by which nature manifests itself and conducts itself, the atoms, the particles, and so on. So the contracts in this world of analogy are actually the rules of how things are manifesting in this world. So if the contracts are the physical rules of conduct, then the NFTs are like atoms that contain metadata sets. So what do you have? You have like these metadata sets that collect together different aspects of information. When we look at an NFT, we usually see just the JPEG, the image, but in truth, NFT holds much more information, much more metadata. So this is where the possibilities of NFTs open up. You're actually connecting on-chain event metadata to an off-chain storage of we presume immutable data, but it can be, of course, can be changeable as well. But you're making like these particles of essential information which you want to have time stamped, and kind of you want the creation of them to be in a way recorded for all history. And to extend this idea, since Unique does very, very advanced things with NFTs, the bundles of NFTs would be like molecules. So why am I extending this analogy, and where does it take us in the end? The point being is NFTs are probably going to be the building blocks of a very, very interesting and diverse data universe that we are hurtling to. Not everyone. I mean, no, that's the wrong way to put it. I don't think anyone has a good insight into what the NFTs could provide in that space. I will make another analogy, which is not so complicated as this one. I mean, elaborate as this one. Currently, in most of the world, we carry in our wallets or in our pockets some kind of plastic, which is either for where I live, there's a plastic for my registration for my car. There's a plastic which proves that I can drive, a driver's license. There's a plastic for my national ID. There's a plastic for almost everything that I have to kind of prove something about the reality of my appearance in this world has a little plastic. Well, that plastic is essentially an NFT in the data space. It's a collection of metadata encapsulated in one place. And if we use that analogy in that sense and say, oh yeah, everybody gets what a plastic is, like a credit card, or you absolutely have no issue with understanding what the use for it is. So I'm giving this analogy to you for NFTs. Once you kind of make that step in understanding that an NFT collects metadata into one place, then it becomes a really, really, really usable kind of use case for NFTs, which means you can encapsulate art, you can encapsulate information, you can encapsulate the basic atoms of any kind of database that you want to structure. It won't have the speed of database records, but it won't be used in that sense. There's much more use in having these elements of metadata than having them as records of a database. They might be linked to a database somehow, it doesn't matter, but what really matters is that essentially they are the encapsulation of this metadata, which can be manipulated, and which is most important. If you want, you can exchange it, or it can be unexchangeable, like your personal identity. I suppose at some point there's going to be a connection between NFTs and personal identity in some sense. So there are some things that you cannot give away and share, and then there are other things which you can. There's a lot of talk of using NFTs to tokenize real world data, which means you could tokenize your holdings in some houses, even buildings, apartments. This is where people are kind of getting innovative of how it can be used. But one of the crucial aspects that connects these ideas is the idea, I'm going back to the very start where I said that the blockchain actually does, it encapsulates something in time, which it makes it very important for deeds and contracts which you want to have recorded in history and so on. So this was my analogy about the NFTs. But what Unique is doing is very interesting. But I'll let you lead on that.
No, I think you are very right. And I think nothing could have been more to the point response. You are covering, capturing the metadata. Now, these metadata could be representing the various aspects of real life. And then, of course, once we have that, then you have choices, the way you really want to deal with it. And I also agree with you that NFTs are basically the building blocks and upon which you could do. In fact, I would also agree that these NFTs have become, to me, they look like the different building blocks of different functioning economies, basically. And these economies have real values in different ways. So I think I think very, very well covered, Philip. I think let me extend my question to you in the same direction. Um, if you look at the impact these NFTs are already making into this space, what are the different industries that you think they are already being used in, and what do you see happening in the next few years in the space in terms of in the industries being impacted by these NFTs?
So this is a very good question, and before I answer it, I have to really, really strongly stress one point regarding NFTs. We say for the blockchain that we're kind of early, and this is like the alpha stage of a great, great concept evolving. NFTs are in the pre-alpha kind of arena. So that what that means is for those, I mean, I presume there are a lot of developers here, so we all know what, alpha, the beta release and the final candidate and so on, what they mean. But what it essentially means is I'm talking about it more like alpha and pre-alpha in the paradigm concept of it. Where is the breaking point where everybody gets it, what it is and what's it for? So in that sense, we're in the pre-alpha and the alpha stages. It still will take a lot of explaining, a lot of adoption, a lot of efforts to kind of make it ubiquitous. Just like it was a task with bringing in mobile telephony. And I'll tell you something. I remember a time when we were having mobile telephones and everybody was, 80% of the people were like, we're never going to have video phones. And even if we did, why would we want it? Horrible. But this is a paradigmatic shift when you talk about it in reality. Now everybody's not only using videos, but they're wasting their time in TikTok nonsense and whatever it is. People are just enjoying having this aspect of. So what I'm talking about here is a paradigm shift when I'm talking about the video. It has no relation to NFTs other than in the concept that at one point you're like, you have no idea what it's about, and you're even like, nah, it doesn't really sound good, or don't know where this is going. And then at another point you're just swimming in the pool of it, and you're like, oh yeah, this existed like forever. I remember, I was born before this was made, but I can't remember when I was born. Like it was so yeah, it's like ages ago. How this seems like it was always there, and so on. This is what happened to us with mobile telephones. This is what happened to us with the internet, and this is what happened with many technologies that are coming along. And many generations are being born into it, but essentially it always takes the kind of environment to help you make that bridge in the paradigmatic shift to understanding what it actually is used for. And so what are the entry points, the gateways? What are the places where this shift can occur? This is actually a question. What parts of industry are actually implementing NFTs so that it makes sense? So of course the big pushers that are reaching out to the greatest audience are brand and product kind of companies and corporations which want to use NFTs as a kind of vehicle of awareness, like Adidas, we exist, we exist. Of course, everybody knows we exist, but we want everybody more to know that we exist, so whatever. It's a vehicle for kind of promotion and so on. So that's one use case. It doesn't really. It's okay, but it's not really the use for NFTs. It is one of the uses for NFTs, of course. But on the other hand, there are gaming platforms which will benefit a lot from NFTs, especially in the direction where it's being kind of considered now. Could we make a digital identity a basis for kind of integrating your online presence generally? So like you're in different games, but you want to be able to kind of carry across the games some aspects of your efforts and so on. So NFTs are one way to encapsulate that metadata. So the gaming platform is offering a lot, especially when I mention things like Unique is very proud of being, the most advanced kind of concepts of NFTs, having them already implemented. One of them being nesting, for example, where, as you can presume, in the gaming industry, the nesting is a perfect concept. Like, you have a player and you can nest other assets in one NFT. So when this little figure or NFT goes from one game to another, it carries along the assets that it has earned within certain kind of game space, or even tokens, which come through playing through different platforms, which opens up a whole world of trading of things and so on. And the NFT becomes the carrier for this metadata, for this exchange, and also for the identity, so that one may traverse the universe of the digital domain with some kind of an identity, and also having some kind of asset that goes along with the whole, instead of having it like in 1,000 wallets and then having to kind of, oh, I have to upload this there, and I have to go to this, portal web page where I will type in this from my wallet and then it will read that I have some asset. No, if you have it all in an NFT, when you travel, it travels with you. So this is one kind of idea that I see the industry is kind of moving forward. Unique is very, very on the front lines of this, because we're developing some very, very advanced concepts in the usage of the NFTs. I mentioned just nesting a moment ago. Essentially, it's not just nesting, it's bundling. It's an ability to nest under one token, not just non-fungible tokens, but fungible tokens as well. That is, you can nest coins and other NFTs, which is very useful, has many, many use cases. There's the refungibility issue. I have to remind you of the great effort we made with making a CryptoPunk, giving a piece of CryptoPunk for everyone to own as an asset that is astronomically expensive for the most of us. I mean, I haven't considered for a second giving $200,000 for an NFT because I don't have it. But once it is fractionalized, it becomes actually very, very, you can have it specifically, the unique version you can have for free. All you have to do is just say, I want one, and you get one. So what happens when you fractionalize an NFT like that? You actually get the rights to use it. And this is a very important point. This is the point of fractionalization. I can, if I own a fraction of the NFT, I have the rights to use it as my avatar, to implement it in any way. And you can sell a fraction just like you can sell an NFT if you don't want it anymore. And you can collect more fractions and so on. So it kind of opens up a whole new arena of what NFTs can do. And this is the way we're thinking about it. Now, there's a very important point with this, talking about all these advanced things. Most of the developers that haven't had experience with Unique, they're going to say, my God, but it sounds more and more and more complicated. Who's going to manage this? I mean, it's going to take years to learn how to, kind of program all this. So this is the good news. So this is the great news. This is the major news. Unique provides you with the ability to do that with such an easy way, because we have a JavaScript SDK, an API that you use just like for anything in Web2 development. It's so easy to use. Like, it takes like 15 minutes to learn the baby steps. And after those baby steps, you've got a complete collection and NFT and everything with all the complexities that you want implemented on it. So this is what our workshop is going to be kind of pinpointing on when it comes along. I'm inviting everyone to take a look. We'll be showing how to make some very complex stuff in like half an hour. So this is where we're at. Joining two things about the complexity of the NFTs, of what they can potentially be, of all this opportunity being provided through a very, very, very simple JavaScript interface. I mean, that's a great promise.
Nothing could have been better, basically. And I think I agree with you, Filip. So basically, you touched upon a couple of points which are very important. One is basically, how do you make this technology simpler so that more and more dev community can participate, because otherwise every day, a new language is coming up and people are struggling to just keep pace with the new languages. Now, the best way would be to make or, provide an interface to these complexities, by means of abstraction, like what you guys are doing. I think that is something which really could be the best thing for this technology. One another important point that you really mentioned, and I want to really talk about it, is basically interoperability. Now, if you really have, say, for example, an NFT asset for a particular game, now in the physical world, in the 2D world, what really happens is that you have this asset and you really cannot do anything apart from using that in that game. Now, this NFT world and the metaverses world, which are associated with NFTs, they provide you an opportunity in which, and in fact, I agree with you that the industry is working towards it. Can these assets be your assets? Wherever you go, you can use this. Now, I mean, of course, there are work efforts happening in that direction, but then I still think a lot of work really has to happen in terms of standardizing the conventions, the protocols, the business rules across these games and metaverses, so that, and again, a consortium has to happen, and I think again effort is on in that area, where you can stand, like, the HTTP. I mean, nobody bothers about sending some data on the internet now, because a lot of work really has happened in the past to standardize those things. So I think that really in blockchain and the Web3 and the metaverses, NFTs are in that stage. But then coming back to the point, your point, so what do you think are the different key bottlenecks that you see right now, which this industry is facing? And you touched upon some of them. How is Unique trying to solve them? I mean, would you really share something on that?
So there's the key bottlenecks. This is a very, very kind of wide arena, and I'm not really a good expert on this, but I do have a little bit of an inkling of where I think might be kind of the bottlenecks that really clog up the system. So one which is relatively easy to solve is the bottleneck regarding to interoperability standards. What does that mean? That means that essentially, if you want to be able to move NFTs across different blockchains, it would be beneficial for some kind of understanding of what we are describing as NFTs with their characteristics to have a common ground. What I mean by that is, since the Unique implements very complex structures, we allow nesting of NFTs, we allow refungibility, we allow a certain schema. With schema, when I mention schema, that means a collection of metadata items which need to be organized in a specific kind of structure, so that you can recognize and read what the NFT actually has. So these aspects of the NFT are something where some kind of understanding between the different creators of NFTs would benefit from having a common ground. Why is this a special issue in regards to the current blockchains? Lies in the nature of what Unique blockchain is and what general contract blockchain actually is. So Unique is a specialized blockchain. It's a blockchain which is optimized for the creation, use, and manipulation of NFTs. How do we accomplish this? We accomplish this by providing at the blockchain level methods which allow you manipulation of NFTs. These methods, because they exist as atomic kind of operations on all the validator nodes, are magnitudes of order faster than general contracts. What I mean to say is, creating a collection and creating an NFT or changing any attributes is enormously faster in an optimized network. These things in a generalized network environment like the Ethereum environment need to be handled by specific contracts. Contracts, being generalized, need to be interpreted at every point where the processing of what they do is being done. And this is where the speed up actually comes from. The other issue is, in generalized network where there's no common agreement, because you have a plethora of contracts, you have a continuous kind of antagonism between the concept of bringing in the common ground. Why? Because everybody thinks their contract is better, they don't want to let go of it because they have a special use case for it. So everybody's fighting for their version of the contract. So this is where we kind of cut the line. Unique provides this operability at the level where you don't really need to discuss anything. Like minting an NFT is simply minting an NFT. Any superfluous kind of activity can be regulated with contracts. But here's the point of what I'm trying to say. This is one of the things that kind of is a bottleneck for the adoption. It is very hard to impose a standard on a generalized contract network because there are a lot of players and a lot of interests. So that defining what an NFT should behave like in a common ground is a thing that needs to happen for it to work first on that kind of network. And then you need to step over the river and then talk to the other blockchains and see what they're doing and find the common ground. So that is a bottleneck in itself. For us in the Polkadot ecosystem, it's much easier. We're kind of easier to talk between ourselves. We have ideas, we communicate, we're trying to keep up this very cooperative and open atmosphere, and it's happening really well, where we're intercommunicating between ourselves, talking about which way it could go, in what sense could we develop and define what an NFT is, and so on. I don't have any details about this, but this is the point I'm trying to make. It kind of needs to happen on that level for it to become a thing where it can travel across blockchains and become universally present in different. There is a level at which this functions with the ERC20 token, which comes as a definition from the Ethereum network. But here's the issue. Have you looked at the definition of the ERC20 token? It's so general that the 2 points that are actually necessary to fill the ERC20 requirement are, it's like we just promise one thing, that this is a token that has a specific definition of encapsulation, and second is everything else, go find it in the functions outside of this definition. So yeah, right. Okay, so we have the shell, but whatever's inside is and whatever inside is essentially the core of what the NFT is. So this is one place. The other bottleneck that I've kind of see in this area is, how do you obtain an NFT? It's going to be a big issue for a lot of people who have never had experience with blockchains and wallets and so on. I'm not only talking about, they always say the older people, they're having a hard time getting into this digital world. It's not about that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have anything to do with age. It just has to do with, my God, do you want the hassle of it? For example, there's one thing that we solved in Unique Network with sponsoring that was a big issue that we noticed. Whenever somebody was promising to give a gift, a free NFT, as a gift of being part of something, fundraising or being a Pope. We'll be doing the subject of Pope actually as a challenge, but you want to give something free, and you say like, okay, I'm going to give an NFT that might be worth something like in years, and so on. You say, yeah, great. Okay, how do I get it? And then you say, well, first you have to get a wallet, and then you have to create an account, and then you have to go to an exchange, and then you have to use a credit card, which you don't want anybody to misuse, to buy for a certain amount of your currency, this token, and then you have to transfer it from the exchange to your wallet, and then you have to give me that address, and everybody's like, yeah, it's free, but it takes like 20 steps to get the free token. And can you imagine, like, okay, people that have time for it and have kind of feel easy with, yeah, sure, no problem, I'll do it. Yeah, it's a hassle, but I'll do it. But can you imagine people that are just first time interacting with it? That's a bottleneck. That's a true bottleneck. That's like, whoa, like, I have no idea what you want from me. And the list of steps you want me to go through is like hell. I don't want to go through hell to get a free NFT. So we solve this with actually introducing sponsoring as an option. So it takes out everything of the equation except for having your own wallet and kind of creating an account. So just if you can do those two steps, Unique Network provides for those who want to sponsor minting an ability to simply push an NFT into the wallet, and yay, it's so this is, now we're talking about bottlenecks and how to resolve them. So Unique Network is working on how to resolve them through that example. So that was the second one. There are more, but those two just come to the front of my head, and I don't want to explore the area here without having the points to just rattle them out.
No,
so
but
let's
I think,
stop here.
No, but then I think you have covered the important ones. I agree with you. I think that's very, most of the solutions which are generic in nature, I think, first of all, this technology still is complex in our opinion, and it really has to become much more simpler. And then only the mass adoption will happen. And I think, the key, the key problems, if they are tackled directly, like you said, I mean, can we just say, okay, click a button or do these two things and you are done with your objective? And that these kind are the things which really are important. And in my opinion, that's what will, encourage people to start using it. And especially, I think there are people who are tech savvy. There are people who are tech neutral. And then there are people who really are not so conversant in the technology. I think you have to really look at, and that really, unfortunately, the third category is the vast amount of people across the globe. So it really has to be done like that. Now, I think I think I agree that really will change the way this technology is looked at. But let's talk a little bit on the other side of the equation. So if you really look at.
Can I mention one thing, because you touched upon a nice thing? I don't want to lose the thread of it, which is very good. So that's talking to the general audience. But this is, I want to tell you an important position that Unique is trying to take. So let's talk about developers in this case. We're talking about the same kind of issue. Like, I would like to get involved with this technology, but whenever I peek into Polkadot, I hear substrate Rust programming, and everybody knows, like, that takes a bit of time to chew on unless you've been doing that for quite a long time, especially if you're getting into any kind of development framework and so on. So everybody gets the scares. How many years will I have to devote to kind of getting into this? And is there any promise that, I'll be paid back through my efforts in creating apps or anything in this? So Unique, so we would call that a bottleneck as well. You'd agree that that is essentially a bottleneck for adoption. So Unique is in a unique position. I had to use that. It works every time, but it's in a unique position to kind of be in this situation to have a goal that is actually pulling apart the main concept at the core, but we're doing it well. So the idea is this: try to make the most complex and most advanced blockchain you can in terms of the capabilities it gives in manipulating NFTs, and at the same time, the one that's pulling in the other direction, make it as simple as possible, so that somebody that just knows JavaScript and nothing more, just basic JavaScript, essential programming, gets the tools in their hand and they say, like, wow, this is all? Like, I don't have to go into this study of years and years of this is where we're at, and this is what we're providing, and this is why we're so happy to kind of mouth it off and say, hey, guys, everybody, take care. Like, it's so simple. Please, it takes a little effort. Why is we talked about it earlier a bit. Why is it also an interesting concept when we say we're using not only JavaScript, but an API that is RESTful? That means that these calls that manipulate the blockchain are actually done as calls to a service. And this takes away the maintenance of the code. That is a crucial aspect. That means you don't have to worry about maintaining the dependencies in your code. All you have to know is that a call that you make will always do what you want it to do. And as the new versions roll out in the background, there's nothing for you to do. As long as your calls follow the protocols, they'll keep on working. So two strong points for developers to kind of have in mind. It's easy to get started with, it's easy to master, and it takes little efforts to maintain. Almost everything's done on the part, and it also opens the capability to work on different platforms, mobile, desktop, whatever, and so on. Sorry for that.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, very rightly said. And I think I agree with you that technology. I mean, when it starts, it starts being complex. But then again, for the mass adoption to happen, it really has to be simplified for all stakeholders, be they developers, be they end users, be people. I mean, from any walks of life. I think that's the natural progression, and I think I do appreciate the effort Unique Protocol is doing in terms of simplifying all these offerings to the developers, where you really don't need to learn anything new than what you already know. I think that's a very, very important step forward, for the mass adoption.
Or at least you have a very strong stepping stone on which to make the first step. The foundation is there. You just need to, as you go, pick up the elements of what it makes for the whole thing to function, and it makes it much easier if you don't have to go to the nitty-gritty details of hardcore programming and managing very complex functions and so on. So this is especially important in when considering that with interacting with the relay chain, there are some very, very difficult things if you want to do them from the scratch in terms of how do you sign in extrinsic. What are the specifics and the requirements for a proper extrinsic signature? How does it relate to the transaction time and so on? These things are already solved. We've already covered them. You don't think about those. You work on those only if you're developing more complex SDKs than we are. But then everybody has to do it at some level. We did it at the hardcore level so that you could use it. Everyone could use it at the much easier.
Absolutely. I think that's very, I would say the natural, I think I would not call it natural, but that's the desired progression. That's the desired direction that industry has to take, and we welcome all these efforts. So let me talk about a little bit about the impact these NFTs are making. I think that is something which really we talk about these technologies. We talk about all the hard work that goes inside, but then at the end of the day, they should really make a considerable impact or change in the lives of the people. Say, for example, we always talk about in the conventional world, you are an artist, you don't really have access to many platforms where you could go and do something. There are a lot of unknown experts living in isolation. So what do you think? I mean, all these NFTs in terms of the artwork, in terms of people, in fact, there are games which are dependent on NFTs, and in many countries, these games, earnings from these games have become the means of livelihood of many people. So I think there are many direct or impact benefits of these NFTs. So I would want to know your thoughts in terms of how do you see these impacting the socio-economic fabric of the society. I think, in my opinion, and I believe this, everybody believes that this should be one of the most important goals for any technology, for that matter.
I have been fortunate enough to be following the NFT arena from the early days, and I've seen the evolution from just tradable tokens to actually points of how would you call it? You would use it as something as a passport for a society. There are, let's say, the Bored Ape Yacht Club. They have a very, we can call it elite society, in the sense that not many people own them. Those that do are a very small group of people that do. And at some point, somebody was wise enough to say, like, yes, but there has to be a way to make this make it beneficial for the social grouping to kind of engage them in a way. So that was the experiment as the idea. I believe that the NFTs actually provide a way to accomplish certain social cohesion in that is very targeted. So you would say, like, I know there's a platform, I don't want to mention because I don't want to advertise anybody here. Essentially, it's a guy that I absolutely love with what his work has been doing, but there are like societies of people who are interested in furthering and developing the digital environment and the metaverse and so on, where certain environments have been made where being the owner of a token makes you privy to a collection of very, very specific group of people who are very interested in the things for which you joined that group. So that's using a token as an entry point for social interaction and a kind of social activism. Yeah, you can say activism, definitely. I mean, if that group has some kind of a goal and so on, NFT becomes a way of you becoming a part of that activity. Selling that NFT is like, I'm bugging out. I don't want to have anything to do with this. Buying the NFTs, I'm very interested in what you're doing. I want to be a part of it. What they have discovered in the years during the development of NFTs, that you can profit from having an NFT and being part of a certain community. So this is an interesting concept. Bordiak Ape Club has actually an ape token, a fungible token, which brings profit for those who stake or are simply holders of certain tokens. This provides a model that is real new capitalism at the core of it, but in a much kind of for the people capitalism sort of aspect. Is like, as you know, most of the prices of most of the NFTs at entry were very small. They grew in value as the society or the community grew in value. But this is the idea of the stakeholder essentially kind of expanded into a popular, general arena. That means that NFTs are becoming a way of not only create social cohesion, to become part of some kind of society or a group that you absolutely agree with, if it has a certain flair for that, or if it is so defined, or simply to be the one who sponsors certain ideas which you kind of like and so on. Now, most people want simply to have profit from having NFTs, which is normal. It is okay because it is exploding. It is a way to do that. But we're beginning to see the pictures drawing out of NFTs being used for something more than just, flipping, which is buy it cheap, sell it expensive. They're making reasons for you not to sell it. Like, I want to keep it. I will never sell this token, not because I like it so much, but because it makes me a part of a community which I'm very proud of being, and I want to be a part of from now on and for like forever, or until I get sick with it and I'll sell the tokens. Don't adhere to the community.
Absolutely.
Anymore.
So I think speculation is something which is definitely, I would not call it speculation as a bad thing, but then speculation dilutes some of these real utilities of any tool for that matter. So I think what should persist basically depends on the utility, the value any tool brings for that matter. And I think that's,
but it's the pre-alpha. It's the pre-alpha stage. This is what I'm saying. Nobody actually sees the second part that we're talking about here yet. I mean, not nobody. Not many people see is the proper way to phrase it. What is the additional utility and why it's interesting from that aspect and so on. And I wanted to say regarding the speculation and so on, the pre-alpha stage is it really coincides with, as you know, there's a development cycle for every technology. You've probably seen the graph before. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about the early investors who shake in fear that that the technology will not develop, but they're very hopeful. So the hopefuls are the one that are buying in now. Yeah. Seeing the hopefuls profit at the early stage on the first third of the development, then the FOMOs keep jumping in. They don't have the idea, I invest in this technology because I think it's a promising technology. I just want to get rich like these guys got rich. I have no idea what this technology is about, and I don't give a damn, really. Like, I just want the money. And the funny thing is, essentially, everyone has a place in this. It's natural to have this. This is how you collect incentive on a worldwide scope. On how do you get people to come together for something? Ones that have the vision, they lead and they take the charge. Others join in, seeing that there will be common profit for everyone in it. This is good. But the point of my story is, we're in the pre-alpha stage of that cycle. We're in the very, very, very early stages of things just picking up.
Yep.
So,
and I agree. It will take its own time. And the only thing that can be influence the speed. Yeah. And I think that's where we all come in. We should try to get the speed. So I think my next couple of questions are exactly in the same line. So I would like you to kind of help us with all the audience here who are listening so carefully about the technology. What do you think? I mean, if somebody wants to get into this space, how should they? What should their approach be?
well, look, I'm very biased here. Unique really provides the best platform. I mean, do you know where I base it on? I'm a developer relations manager. What I do is I talk to developers. I talk to them, like, they ask me, how do we do this, or how do we do that? How can we implement? What is the idea? Or I talk to the people who are not developers and want to know about the technologies and the capabilities. And what I usually come across is something very interesting. I say, like, look, I would come across with a simple question like, Filip, how do we implement, like, we want a button on our, on our site, something very specific. And we're like, oh, but, blockchain and all this. And I'm like, no, it's really simple. Just take a look at this workshop or read this documentation. And they said, yeah, okay, yeah. Filip said it's simple. Like, his head is in it all the time. Like, and he's probably like programming from morning to night. And we don't trust the developers that say it's simple. Like, they're talking nonsense. We don't trust them. So I usually get this reaction. Yeah, right, okay, yeah. So then time passes by, and then we talk again. And I said, Filip, we were thinking about going back to that thing about making the button. And I said, well, did you try it? And they said, no, like, blockchain technology, it's so difficult. I said, come on, look at this little example of what it goes. And immediately, like several hours from when I give them the link to a workshop or something like that, they go like, oh my God, we missed like a week. We could have done this a week ago. It's so simple. Like, why didn't you tell us it was so simple? Like, yes, I was telling you it was so simple. So it's quite a natural thing. There's so much hype about this being, the blockchain technology being complicated and difficult to get into. And that is true for so many kind of approaches. What we succeeded in is making it an easy approach. And I'm kind of proud of saying it, that I'm not pulling your leg when I say, give it a try. Through JavaScript and the APIs, you can get from zero to hero like in half an hour, an hour. I mean, what I mean by that is it takes about half an hour to observe what are the steps of initiating JavaScript, of initializing the SDK, and then you simply have to observe how the calls for creating collections, tokens, defining their properties, what it looks like in real life, and that's it. From that point on, it's just variation. It's just what you want to do differently from what we did in this example. What you want nesting? We showed nesting. You want to have some other special properties? No problem. There's on our documentation site. You can just expand on what you want to set in as the parameters to define the attributes and so on. So this is how simple it has begun to be for all the developers with what Unique has provided. That's my point.
Absolutely. No, I think nothing makes it more simple to explain like you did here, Filip. I think the conversation have been pretty exciting, and I think we got into many insights about Unique protocol from you, and also what we see, where in which direction this industry is moving towards, and what kind of impact does it really make on the people, on the community. So I think I will ask my team whether there are any questions the audience has for Filip. Dhruv, any questions for Filip?
Right.
And there are also with us, I think, I haven't looked in the roster who's there. There should be Nikolai Pastinkov, Sergei Okishev, and Sergei Kozlov. Also, the whole team is here. We really wanted to come en force here. And if there are any technical questions regarding to how JavaScript is implemented or how the APIs are called or something like that, if anything comes along, I think they're here. They can answer those questions as well. But I hope I will be able to answer the more general ones.
Yeah, thank you for the team, and we do appreciate you, team, taking our time and being a part of this. Yeah, Dhruv, go ahead.
So I do have a few generic questions itself from our community and few of our viewers from back then. So one of them goes, can NFTs enable making the luxury market a little bit more secure? So when we talk about things like luxury watches and verifying the authenticity of the products. So what is your take on that?
There are quite a few projects that we're actually taking part in where the luxury aspect of tokenization is the central point of what they're trying to do. It's a very interesting kind of arena. It's but there's a lot of things to be discovered yet there. It's coming of age. It's becoming a reality. We're working, I think I can say that one of our partners, I don't know if I can mention them. I mean, I'm sorry for that. I'm a developer relations manager. Our main kind of the business part of the issue of what I can say or cannot, I kind of have to tiptoe about. But that we have a cooperation with companies that are really specifically targeting the luxury market and the tokenization of that market. It makes a lot of sense to do that. It will also make a lot of sense to bridge that with the rising importance of what digital identity is becoming. So DIDs, digital identity tokens, and signatures which are being issued have some very, very, very important implications in the NFT space. There are some interesting ones. They can be used and they can be abused, but we're mostly thinking of how they can be really used in a good sense. What I love about the thing is you can have a digital identity which hides your real world identity, and this identity can be kept in an escrow. So for some company that you trust, that you lend your trust to, will know who you are, but as far as you're concerned, when somebody asks you, hey, what's your name and your telephone, where do you live? You don't give them that information. You give them a digital trusted signature, which proves to the company that you are the one that you're talking about, because you have the cryptographic key to prove it and so on. So in the luxury market, joining those two concepts and having them become part of the NFTs, which is one of the important things that is coming along, we're very much involved in that as well, is going to marry that market in a very, very happy place, which would mean if you buy a Rolex and you have a digital identity attached to that serial number, even if it's stolen, the record is in the NFT. So like, if you don't have the NFT, you don't have the proof of ownership. That's an interesting concept. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be ever implemented like that, but it could go that way. And then there are other aspects of how NFTs are related to luxury items. You do remember there were some sneakers that you would walk around and you would get tokens for. Yep. This is a perfect way to kind of marry an NFT with tokens. You encapsulate it with the tokenized product, which is the sneakers, the model you have, and you attach an identity to it, and then it's your sneakers, and this is where you store the tokens and so on. So there are a lot of use cases for that. I hope that answers the question.
Yep, absolutely.
Even I could understand a little bit more after you explained this. So if I am selling a Rolex to you, and if the NFT transfers, in this case, Rolex can actually make a small cut out of it. So it's good for Rolex too, and companies would want to do this.
Yeah, so this is a very important aspect that kind of you're touching on a very, very crucial aspect of what NFTs kind of promise, actually what smart contract promise. The smart contract promise was that essentially you would have a no middlemen in the process of creation. We're coming back to the story about artists. It would be lovely if an artist could, which he can, of course, now, today, make an artwork, tokenize it, and then attach a contract which says every time this artwork is resold, 2% goes to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. So it's trustless. You don't have to trust that the market that the NFT is going to give it to you, and you don't have to, use your lawyers to say these guys sold it for me and I didn't get anything. I have to, kind of go against them. So this is what trustless means. It means that the contract being executed in the sale automatically allotted 2% of the sales to your account, which is registered in the contract for the sales. So this is where it really, really becomes interesting for worldwide artists. Why? Because then you do not depend on an environment for the sale of artwork. And I have to tell you, from my friends who are artists, if you jump around the countries around your own country, you'll find completely different and closed arenas for sales of art, which make it a hell. I mean, this is going beside the point, but I remember an artist of mine saying, I went to the next country and you know what they told me? We can't sell your work. It's too good. What? It's too good. It's so much better than what we have here in this exhibition hall that I'm going to sell your stuff and I'm not going to sell any of this stuff. And they're going to be asking for your stuff. And then what's going to happen to my business? And they said, no, we're not taking your things. Go back home. Do your beautiful artwork where you want. So you skip this point. This is the trustless aspect of it. You skip it completely if you've got it tokenized as an NFT. You're pushing it out to the market, and there's nobody that can say this to you, because once
Absolutely.
it's out, yeah,
it is truly transformative. I think this will change the lives. And if you really don't, and we're talking about, if you really don't have capital to go and build these artwork, for example, you can go and fundraise it. I mean, you could do 100 things here, basically. It just opens up. Yeah.
So,
Dhruv?
right. We'll just take one last question from our viewer on Zoom. So Srimukhi wants to know, how does NFT work in a gaming environment? So I think we already went through it once, but
yeah, no, that is. I would like to expand on that question in a very interesting way I haven't touched upon, and that is, how usable really is an NFT in the gaming environment today? This has to do with transactions. So there are games which are slow paced, like card games, strategy decision games, which turn-based games, for which NFT implementation today is like spot on. You don't have to have super fast transactions because the transactions themselves do not happen super fast and so on. But then you have games where the interaction is quick and where the request for the modification of the NFTs might be performed during gameplay. Now, this is very difficult to kind of encompass. So let me put it this way. As long as the concept of the NFT is being applied in a game, in a sense that when you have completed a task, there is a point where your accomplishments are being tallied. That means counted, in the sense that you're getting some tokens or awards or something, experience points, whatever. And you want to encapsulate that in your NFT, which carries your whole kind of gaming experience in it. There's no issue there, because you can cache that event, in the sense you can make a cache in the game, which kind of keeps it for you until it is processed on the network. or you can wait till you kind of log out of the game or complete a section of the game to write it into the NFT. And then again, you don't have an issue with transaction timings and so on. So there are some technical issues which make it difficult to apply it in a real-time kind of application, to have it modified on the fly, but make it really, really applicable in the case where you don't have this problem with having to do it rapidly and quickly in succession. Now, having said that, the gaming industry and the whole industry of the development industry in the blockchain knows that, and everybody's putting a big effort towards increasing the transaction time and the latency and the finality. That is the how much time does it take for a certain transaction to be validated across all the validation nodes and to be declared as present on the blockchain, to be recorded in the blockchain. So this is a big issue which is being solved and really becoming more and more. This is where I say again, we're in the alpha stage. So we still need to develop a lot of things. We're like in the internet, we're not even at the 10 megabit stage. We're at the 1 megabit internet stage, which I don't know if any one of you remember was hell. Like sending a picture of like 100K over a megabit was like, I've got 15 minutes to kind of wait for it. So anyway, this is where we're at, but this is where it's going to. Like Polkadot has announced, I think for by the end of the year, they're stepping up their transaction time into the next level. It was intentionally kept at a low pace so that the network could mature and everything can be kind of bugged. All the bugs can be cleared out of it, and they're ready at the stage to really rise it up. So it even becomes more interesting for game developers from that aspect. There are platforms which already have great speeds, but are somewhat unstable. And this is where currently probably people are kind of thinking of implementing them in gaming. But as far as I see, this is a place where it's going to be really, really, really interesting. And it's going to be a central part. And it is dividing into two camps, which I think one camp is just going to give up. The camp is games don't need NFTs. So I'm not going to name any names of the big corporations which are saying that, but I think you probably know who I'm talking about. And they're saying, no, games are never going to have NFTs. NFTs have nothing. We hate the online kind of market and so on. And then there are companies which are really like thinking, no, this NFT idea is actually really good because, actually, if you have some kind of an environment with a lot of games, you do want a digital identity present across all the gaming platforms and some kind of experience not being collected on site. So this is here we're coming upon the concept of centralization and decentralization. So if a site has a lot of games and it's keeping track of your accomplishments, it's centralized. They have it. They are the owners of what your accomplishment is. If they go bust anytime soon and they sell a game to someone, your accomplishments go down the bin because it's in their hands. Yep. But if you have it in an NFT and your accomplishments, you carry it with you, they can't do anything. I mean, they can even go bust if anybody raises the game again. Oh, you're in with all your accomplishments and so on. So this is the idea of decentralization coming into fruition, and I think it's going to be a very, very, very interesting aspect of why gaming industry is going to topple. So the two sides, one is going to go pink, and the other is going to nah, we're all in now.
Absolutely, I think ownership, and then verifiability of this ownership, and non-dependence on the platform. Where exactly you are minting these, where you are owning these. So they should be in your wallet, and whether the game survives or exists or not, you still have your property. I think that is something, I mean, this is one of the key, the key expectations, and the industry is moving towards. With respect to the speed and latency you talked about, I think as you know, I think a lot of new tech, technology advances have come. ZK has come. ZK rollup is kind of going and looking at making the things much more faster and in a reliable way. So I think
very exciting technology.
Yeah. So I think this technology, I mean, I agree with Filip here that this technology is pretty exciting. It really has shown its promise. It really has And again, I would agree with him that this is still in the pre-alpha stage where you haven't really, thought about what it could all do. And I think the potential is enormous. Well, guys, I think it was wonderful to have you, Philip, today. And, I'm so thrilled that you were able to share some of these, perspectives on this exciting technology with all of our viewers at IBC Media. I think we want to thank you from the bottom of our heart and your team for being able to, make it through. That pretty much from my side. You want to conclude the session for the day?
Right. So first of all, that was a very insightful session, Philip. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing knowledge. So I'm sure.
Thank you guys for having us.
Yeah, I'm sure our viewers are more knowledgeable on NFTs and so much more knowledge than before. What very insightful for today. So thank you so much, Philip, for sharing knowledge so much fun. It's a collaborative space. Web3 is a very collaborative space. So
thank you for having us. It was a pleasure too. It was a very interesting interaction. Real pleasure having a talk here.
And also, thank you everyone for being a part of this conversation. It was a lot of knowledge, a lot of insights, sharing knowledge. It's fun. So now, first of all, it goes without saying that it would not have been possible without IBC Media and Unique Networks' collaborative effort. So thank you so much for that. And now on this screen, you see the QR code to join our Discord channel. Now make sure you join the Discord channel to stay updated with all the activities happening with IBC Media. Like there's IBC Hack, there's other online workshops that are scheduled for later. So you can stay in touch and stay updated by joining our Discord. Another plus point is you can connect with a lot of like-minded people, share ideas, collaborate, connect with industry experts and mentors from our side. So do make sure you join our Discord channel and be a part of our community.
And I'd also like to say, remember that there's a workshop coming up that will be sharing a lot of this information we talked about here. Like I made a lot of promises. We're going to make good on them. We're going to show you how easy it is to do everything that we can. It will be done in the workshop. So stay tuned.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Philip. Yeah.
We have a workshop coming up, so we'll see. We'll be back soon. And all right.
Good.
Thank you so much, guys. Stay tuned.
Thank you,
Philip. Thank you, team. And nice to have you guys here.
Goodbye.
Bye.